So let's get into it. Let's talk about work-life balance because there seems to be a problem with the work-life balance that goes on a day-to-day workplace, and people are pretty much kind of off when it comes to work-life balance. So we're going to kind of talk through that and give you a clear understanding of what work-life balance is, how you identify it, and things of that nature. So work-life balance. So what is it? Having work-life balance is essential to pretty much a lot of aspects of your life. But the problem is many people tend to neglect it for whatever reason, whether we don't see it or things going on in our lives at 100 miles an hour that we don't really identify exactly what's going on. So what is it? What does it mean? So work-life balance refers to harmonizing your relationship between your professional and your personal life. It involves that you have to constantly manage your activities to meet both sides of your professional side and your personal side, while in the process taking care of your health and your well-being. Now that doesn't always seem easy to do, but it has to be balanced on your part. That is one of the things that you are responsible for. But there are two probable factors that may cause an improper work-life balance. So in turn, it will have a negative effect on your health. So let's talk about stress and poor task management. These can have a devastating effect on you. So your conflicting demands, you may have a high tempo work schedule or activities going on at work that you don't really have time and realize how much time is actually going by and how much you are consuming yourself in the office. Because we all do it. We all do it. And next thing you know, 8 hours then went by and we're still working. So we don't really stop and take a moment to look at that. We have that improper balance that's causing stress on our bodies, and we're managing our tasks improperly. So it has a negative effect. So it's that area that a lot of us, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes, that we tend to neglect. We neglect it quite often. So we get so consumed in what we do on a daily basis, and then we don't really realize that not only is it having a negative effect on us, but in turn is having a negative effect on our family. Now, a lot of kids may not say so, don't even understand exactly what's going on, but it has that effect, right? And just as we stressed at this high tempo and not realizing and wonder why, we can't focus or we can't sleep, well, children are the same way. The problem with that is, children's built up this expectation of, wanting you to be at their events and things of that nature. But now they have an expectation that you're so busy that you're not coming. And so now they become numb to it, and it's their way of life. And as a parent, that's not what you want your child to feel. And sometimes you got to do what you have to do to make ends meet. I totally get that. But the reality of it is who all is it having an effect on? It's having an effect on you, and in turn, those around you. So there are some signs to identify an unhealthy work balance. It includes, constant overwork. Bad enough that a lot of us work long hours as it is, right? Including weekends, holidays, and we don't take that sufficient time to rest and relax. We don't take time to enjoy those personal activities like we used to. Those days are long gone, or so few and far between that once we take one, we really realize how important it is and how much we needed that. So constant overwork is one. Turn another one, neglect your personal life. So you sacrifice your personal relationships, hobbies, things that you do for leisure, excessive work plans has a negative effect on those. You have these hobbies that you constantly used to do, whether you put together puzzles or you read books, but you don't do that no more because your work schedule is so high. You don't get out with your friends like you used to, or with your significant other. They may feel a little bit neglected because the tempo is so high that, by the time you get home at the end of the day, you don't have time to do anything, not even to make dinner or whatever it is that you do. So your normal routine has shifted to a different routine, which ultimately became your norm. So neglecting your personal life. Another is burnout. So when you start to experience physical and mental and emotional exhaustion due to chronic stress and work-related pressure, you're starting to get burned out. So you might want to start paying attention to that, because it's starting to ultimately have a negative effect on you. You may not realize it, but it is. Now you're completely exhausted. You just out. Your mental state is not where it should be. You're emotionally exhausted. You're just kind of somewhat defeated. Another is lack of self-care. You failing to prioritize these activities such as exercise, adequate sleep, eating properly, and your leisure time. It's affecting your physical and mental health. You may used to go out and exercise quite often, maybe get a run in or go to the gym, or you're not sleeping like you should, or you up halfway through the night because something at work is on your mind, and then that leisure time is completely gone. So that's a lack of self-care and those strained relationships. So when you start to experience difficulties in the healthy relationship, with family, again, as I mentioned earlier, includes your children and loved ones due to work commitments, then, sometime that's something that you want to reconsider, or something that you might want to look at. And sometime, some desire overtime, and I get that for various reasons, and that's perfectly okay. But with that, realize and remember this: all money ain't good money. And so if you're doing it, make sure it's worth it. So achieving a healthy work-life balance, it varies from person to person, right? It depends on the individuals, their circumstances, their preferences, because everybody can handle a different amount. Some can handle more than others. Some can handle less. You may see a coworker at work who's like, oh my gosh, she's just dealing with all this and she manages it quite well and she seems to have it all together. Well, she could be, that's one, or it could be the perception on the outside. Once she gets home or leave the office, she has a complete meltdown. These are things that you don't know or realize. So here are some tips that can give you an idea of how to deal with a work-life balance. And one I just mentioned, plan ahead. So look at your schedule and see if you can kind of combine some of your activities, whether it's, your leisure activities with work. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're working remotely or you're in the office and you have a meeting, let's say at 9 o'clock and it's nice outside. If it's a meeting that's virtual, can you take that meeting and go for a walk? Can you just kind of enjoy the fresh air and let it hit you as you taking this meeting? Can sometime you sit on the porch and listen to the birds chirp or what have you? Again, if you're working from home. If you're in the office, can you just go outside if you have somewhere close outside where you can kind of sit and relax and kind of somewhat decompress while you're still having that meeting? Look at your schedule and see if all that is possible. Sometimes it's not and it won't present itself, but you have to find a way to give yourself an outlet, because if you don't give yourself an outlet, then it's a good chance that someone else isn't. So you got to keep that in mind. So also you set blocks of time for different tasks. I know a lot of us like to multitask and we have so many things going on at once. So we want to respond to messages, we want to take meetings. So we have all the stuff that we're trying to do at once. Well, sometime, depending on the individual, you might need to separate that. Allot a certain time, it could be the last quarter of an hour to respond to emails or what have you. Set your meetings up if you control the meetings. If you control the meetings, set them up during a certain window for you to allow to give yourself that extra time to do what you need to do. One of the things that I used to do is once I got to work in the morning, those first 2 hours was strictly for me to, for one, start my day, to answer all the emails that I had to answer. I was the only one in the office. So I did what I needed to do to slowly step into my day. Now, I know everyone doesn't have that luxury, but find a way, if you can block those times off to do certain events, you'll realize you might be more productive that way. And you might have a better peace of mind at the end of the day. Another one, end work at a certain time. And I know a lot of us, we work. And then it's even worse when you work from home because you're still at work. It kind of bleeds over into that time. So it spills over into your personal time. So instead of doing what you were going to do at 5 o'clock, you're still doing work trying to complete this task. So set a time and be like, you know what? I am done. I am done. I'm powering down all my devices so I don't have to deal with this. And just, if you're in the office, leave. Get your people out of the office, whatever you need to do. And on top of that, schedule something to do afterwards, like go get a massage or something if your schedule permits, if you don't have a lot of commitments at home. But, so it's applicable to your personal situation. But if you can, find something to decompress. But if you have a second schedule at home, then do what you need to do before you get home. Like, stop, take a moment or decompress on the way back to the house. You may have to run activities and events with your children or what have you. Fine. But somewhere in there before you go to sleep, take time to breathe and decompress. Go out to lunch. A lot of us like to forget lunch or we eat and work. Go out to lunch. So whether you're at home or in the office, it doesn't matter. If you can go out on lunch break, meet up with some of your coworkers and just kind of, again, decompress. Disconnect yourself. Whatever your lunch period is, if it's 30 minutes, if it's 60 minutes, it will give you a change of pace. Again, if you're in the office, go around and be like, hey, I'm going to lunch. Who wants to go? You may have some people that you're close with whose schedule allows it at that time. You go to lunch, something to eat, and sit outside. If they have tables out there, just sit out there and enjoy it. Just take a breath, and you'll realize after lunch, you're a little bit more refreshed and refocused, and that's perfectly okay. So do that. Want to take time off, and this is where a lot of people are guilty. They fail to take the proper time off. They tend to work through illness or, they neglect time off. It's amazing how the office, your where you work, you give them all your time. You will break your back for them, but you wouldn't break your back to make sure you're healthy. You have sick leave, you have sick time, you have personal time. Take those vacations and your bereavement, take all that. These are important things you can use to kind of, again, nourish yourself and decompress, because we neglect all of that. So, some of us are really on vacation, and we're working, things of that nature. So it's a lot of that you have to do to make sure you are healing on the inside. You are healing on the inside, so you have to. So take that time to yourself. If you're not feeling well, put it this way, that work is still going to be there the next day. But some of us, it's like, well, I'm not feeling well, but I can still manage to push through this. Let it go. Go to sleep. Something. That work is going to be there. The end of the world is not going to happen during that time. So I don't think your organization is going to come to a complete stop if you called in sick. If they did, that's the fault of the organization. Also, practice mindfulness. Now, this makes imbalance kind of hard to ignore. So when you practice mindful techniques such as meditation, some people like to do that, breath awareness, you become more in tune with your emotions and your physical sensations. So paying attention to these will help you learn how to notice when you might be suppressing a need in order to work. You'll realize that something is not right with your body, or all of a sudden you start to get a series of headaches for some reason, or something is just not normal self. This allows you to be in tune and pay attention to be able to identify when these things happen. So, if you like to spend, do whatever you can to give yourself a peace of mind. So find something that you love outside of work to engage in. So if you have something that you're really excited about doing after work, it makes it easier to disconnect. Like, again, as I mentioned, some of you like to go straight to the gym after work and you get a good workout in and you decompress. Some of you like to grab that book. Some of you like to go hang out with friends and meet up for, cocktails or whatever it is. Or you may have a certain hobby that you like. Then go do that. And sometime what you have lined up, stick that hobby in there to give you a breather, allow you to decompress. Allow that to happen. And the last thing I would recommend that you do is communicate with your supervisor. So poor work-life balance is often worsened by a lot of people fear that you're not doing enough. So it's like, well, I don't want to take time off, or I just started this job, or I don't want people to think this or that of me. What's more important of what someone think about you or your mental health? That's a rhetorical question, but it's something that I want you to think about. But sometimes talking to your supervisors can help you prioritize things and how you spend your time in the office. It can give you a good balance so you won't feel overworked and overexhausted when you do things. So if there's really something that you must do, and your supervisor is approachable, by all means approach him, because you are human. And what some of them fail to realize is, just as you going through improper work-life balance, they are too. They're having the same experiences as you are, maybe at a different level or even more. But again, you have to take care of yourself. That is work-life balance. And I wanted to take a moment to share that with you all about the work-life balance, because we all need it. We're not superhuman, right? We go through things. We have, stress. Sometimes we have stress and we don't realize we have stress. Sometimes your team members have stress and they don't realize that they're stressed out too. So pay attention to yourself, pay attention to your team. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to sit and have this with me, this live session. So again, I appreciate you all, and I appreciate what you do, and I'm very grateful for all of you. So thank you again, and you all enjoy the rest of your day.